Welcome back to another video of From the Shed End with myself, TDOT. As always, thank you very much for joining. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the Linktree link in the description. Make sure you go and listen to the podcast episodes as well. Now, what can I say? Where do I start? What the lineup? For those that have been under a rock for the last 24 hours, we played Arsenal. We got battered 3-1. It was more the same. The lineup changed, but it was the same shit on the pitch. It was the same. We're gonna dissect it all. We're gonna dissect it all today. The lineup. Let's start with Frank Lampard's lineup. Now, before, if you remember in the preview that I did yesterday, I had Ruben Loftus-Cheek, I had Badiashile in the team, I had a back five, I had two in midfield, I had João Felix, and I had Mudryk with Aubameyang up top. Frank Lampard, let's be honest, he did try. He put Aubameyang in the team, but the free midfield, Kovacic, someone who you can clearly see has no idea of what he wants to do. Doesn't track back, doesn't get forward, loses the ball. Playing the back four is criminal. Criminal against Arsenal. Now, I thought Martinelli was going to start on the left, but Trossard done just as good as a job. And Azpilicueta, I said yesterday, you can't play Azpilicueta in a back four or as a right wing back or a right centre back. He's just not got the legs anymore. Brilliant servant for the club. Let's not beat around the bush. He's one of the best. He's been one of the best at Chelsea. But he's done as a defender in the league. You think back to Branislav Ivanovic and, you know, those sort of players, those games take their toll. Those are the games where you've got to use the squad you've got. I said yesterday, we've got to use everything in our advantage and play to our strengths. Now, yesterday, I must have been, people who watched the video, they must have thought, flipping out, you're really ambitious. You know, we've had a poor season, but you actually think we can get a result? And I did think we were going to get a result of some sort. I thought maybe 1-1, maybe sneak a little 1-0, be very compact and defensive, make it hard for Arsenal. We literally rolled out the red carpet for Arsenal in the first half. We rolled out the red carpet. Enzo, Kante, Kovacic in the midfield. It hasn't worked. It didn't work in the previous game. It hasn't worked in the game before that. Why would you then go into a game where it's a London derby? Let's start with that. It's a London derby. Why would you go into a game where something hasn't worked previously and you're trying to get something out of this team before you go and go wherever you're going to go after your interim stint? Why would you not change something in the midfield? Carney Chukwuemeka, give him a game. If you're not going to play Ruben at right back or right wing back, put him in midfield. Dennis Zakaria. You've gone for Kovacic, the one player that has clearly down tools. You've got him in the team. Made zero sense. I don't really want to talk about it. There's not much I want to say about the game, if I'm honest, but I have to talk about something that really pissed me off last night. 9 touches from Aubameyang, 4 of them were from kickoff. Now, I'm going to say this because I saw a lot of people online saying Aubameyang, he was just walking around. I think Craig Burley said something very similar. He wouldn't be allowed back at Cobham. Let's separate people who know football from people who don't know football. The reason Aubameyang was walking around is because he doesn't get the service. The same shit that we've had with Lukaku, the same shit that we've had with other strikers, they're not getting the service. It doesn't matter who you bring. You could bring in Messi and Ronaldo. If they're not getting the service, it doesn't matter who you've got in that role. It really doesn't matter. Now, could he have done more, Aubameyang? Oh, 100%. 100%. Did it change when Havertz came on? Maybe, but Arsenal took their foot off the gas. So does it, swings and roundabouts. But for me personally, Aubameyang was getting zero service. Sterling offered nothing at all. He didn't offer a thing. The only player who I can credit in this game is Noni Madueke. Trying to get the ball into the box. Trying to make the runs. Noni scored a goal, his first goal for Chelsea. It got overlooked. It's overshadowed. He can't even celebrate his first goal for the club he's just signed for. Because with that shit, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. We can't even look good just at a game, sort of the magnitude that it is against a team, Arsenal, history, London derby, and we still looked shit in that first half. I can't believe it. Madueke scores his first goal for the club. And I'll be honest, I had to double check it was his first goal. Last night I was checking, I thought, is that his first goal? And we can't even celebrate it. We can't even congratulate him and say, well done. But Madueke was the only player on that pitch. Even Kante had a shit game, I'm going to be honest. Enzo trying to do stuff. But again, it goes back to the whole thing. When you watch Chelsea, especially more so now, I mean, maybe Graham Potter was able to hide certain things or there was a bit more of it. But now, there's no patterns of play. There's no system. There's no movement. There's no press. There's no urgency. There's nothing. The players are just running around. I said last night, it's like they train in isolation. It's like they don't train together. You've got players trying to link up play. I think there was a moment where Ben Chilwell was running forward. Sterling's got the ball. He tries to pass it to Chilwell. Chilwell just leaves it. It's just there's no cohesion in this team. This team is individuals. Individuals. This is the worst Chelsea season in history since the league started, since 1992. The fewest points, the fewest goals. Now, you can't blame that on Lampard, but last night is Lampard. The game before, Lampard. Because guess what? Who's picking the team? Lampard. And his coaching team are picking that team. And when you're playing players that clearly aren't good enough to be playing, the likes of Kovacic. Yes, he's had his moments as a Chelsea player and he's done really well. And we'll all talk about some of the goals that he scored. But he's poor. He's poor. His current form is poor. We have to address those things. When you've got players on the bench that can maybe make a difference. You got João Felix on the bench. Mudryk is on the bench. Someone who should be starting the games. He comes on, he changes things, he makes things more effective. But he's on the bench. Badiashile is on the bench. Why not play Ruben Loftus-Cheek as your right wing back, Badiashile as a centre back, and it gives cover to Silva? Last night, Thiago Silva, nearly 40 years of age, 39 years of age. Azpilicueta, 33 years of age. You're playing two defenders against Saka, against Gabriel Jesus, against Trossard, against Martinelli, against Odegaard, against Xhaka. These players, they're 33 and 39 years of age, and you're expecting them to work miracles in that defence. I don't even want to talk about the goals. The goals were carbon copy 1 and 2. It was just poor. I don't want to talk about the goals. The goals are irrelevant. The goals are irrelevant. We've got to change something because for me personally, one of the things we need to do as Chelsea fans, and I feel like we're almost at that point where Arsenal have been with the AFTV and in the nose, thinking that they actually know stuff and they don't. And our fan base is now a shambles. We are the laughing stock of the top 4, top 6. But we have to separate Frank Lampard as a player to Frank Lampard as a manager. There's no one walking the earth today on the 3rd of May that can tell me Frank Lampard is designed to be a manager. He made us look like a non-league football team yesterday. And that's disrespecting non-league football. We looked that bad. There's no system. There's nothing. These lot don't train together. They do not train on the same pitch. And that is clear. And we know that. So that's not me taking the piss. That is an actual fact that they don't train together. They have to run 2 training sessions. They have to get changed in 2 separate changing rooms. They've had to extend the changing room. There's 35 players. And that's a cop-out in a way for me to say that, oh, we've got 35 players, so, we can only train these ones and that. You've still got 11 players that you can train, regardless of that. You got a core 11 players that you're gonna pick from, or you say 15 players you're gonna pick from. You train those ones. Fair enough. That's a cop out. You still can't tell me, even with 35 players and having to train 2 separate training sessions, that you still can't get a result against Arsenal or Southampton earlier in the season, or Wolves, or whoever. You can't tell me that, because Frank Lampard as a player will always go down as a Chelsea legend. That doesn't even need to be discussed at all. But when we're talking about Frank Lampard, the manager, the one that done fuck all at Derby, the one that done shit all at Everton, that manager, we've got to be honest. Because if this was any other manager, we'd be digging him out and we'd be saying about how shit he is. And Frank Lampard, for some reason, isn't getting that. He's getting this interim. It's only for an interim, whatever. He is not a manager. He's not good enough to be a manager or a coach or a number 2. Punditry. Not every footballer, ex-footballer, is cut out to be a manager. There's people out there with driving licenses. They can't flip and drive on the road. It doesn't mean they're a good driver. It just means you've got a license. You've got a bit of plastic that says you can drive. The same with the FA badges. Just because you've got your badges, it doesn't mean you've got to be a manager. He's not cut out to be a manager. I'm sorry. That's going to piss a lot of the fan base off. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about managers, top level managers, and you're at a top club like Chelsea, you've got to know what you're doing, even on an interim. Even on an interim basis, you've got to know what you're doing. You have to get something. We haven't even had the manager bounce, the new manager bounce. Roy Hodgson's doing it with Crystal Palace. He's getting results. They go 1-0 down, they're getting results. Doesn't matter how, they're going to get one. Look at Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe's gone to Newcastle, and if you look at the players that they brought in, none of them are, apart from Gamares and maybe Isak, none of them are really standout players that you would think, right, they're going to be a game changer. The Dan Burns. You don't think, oh, they're going to be a game changer for them, but they are. And they're working. They're running through brick walls. They're running through brick walls for Eddie Howe. They're running through everything. They're trying to get that top 4 finish. You look at the way that Arsenal are playing now under Arteta. Every moment. The only thing I'll say about Arsenal last night is it could have been 6 or 7. It could have been 6 or 7. And the reason I say that is because they actually stopped playing in the second half. And they brought on certain players that you just wouldn't have expected to see. The Reece Nelsons and Kieran Tierney coming on. They've got a league to try and win. We're currently sitting amongst Bournemouth in 12th with 39 points. And I think we're currently on 31 goals. Now, I said before, this isn't all on Lampard. This interim moment, of course, sits with him. It sits with Lampard. But when you're talking about holistic issues at the club, from top to bottom, it's one of the things I mentioned on the last podcast. We've got to start looking at the owner. And we've got to start applying a bit of hindsight into things, because when you think about it, and I said this before, and I've said it on Pitch Footy, shout out James Helder. I said it on his podcast as well. When you take something that's been working well for 20 years, bearing in mind, Roman was not at the ground. He wasn't at the club. He wasn't allowed in the country for spells of that. He was banned from being at Stamford Bridge. He hasn't been in the country for how many years? And it was still working. The machine was running well. When you've got something like that for 20 years plus and it works, you can't then get rid of everything that the club stood for and not have a backup, not have anyone come in. You can't sack Petr Cech, Marina Granovskaya, Bruce Buck, all these other people, get rid of them all and not actually have any backup plan or any sort of replacements lined up to bring them in. You've got to do it in a transitional phased approach. That's not even just in football, that's in business, that's in anything. I think I used this example before. If I'm the manager of Quick Fit and all my experienced mechanics, I get rid of them and I bring in loads of apprentices, something's going to fuck up. Someone's wheel might drop off the car or the brakes might not work. You can't just go and get rid of everyone and then bring in a bunch of new people and then on top of that, bring in £600 million worth of players and still not address all the flipping issues that we've got at the club and expect things to work. Now, what he should have done, and I said this again, shout out James Helder, Pitch Footy, go and check out there. There's a Chelsea special. Go and watch that. I said on that channel, this will happen. This will happen. We will be facing tough, dark days to come. I said this in maybe October, November. I said we can't just go from all of that structure in place to then getting rid of all of it. And expecting at the time Thomas Tuchel to be flying here and there and trying to get Dembele and trying to get Rafinha and trying to get Jesus, trying to get all these players in and still expect Thomas Tuchel to manage the team and travel with the team. And that's not his job. His job is to co-sign the signings of 100%. He's meant to co-sign the signings. The new manager should come in and co-sign the signings. He should not be there talking to the agents week in, week out, day in, day out. That's someone else's job. That's the director's job or the technical director or the director of football or this person or Todd Bowley. It's not the manager's job to sit there week in, day out and make sure that these signings happen. That's not his job. He gives the list of people. He says, look, guys, this is who we need. Go make it happen. And then when you need me, call me and I'll come and endorse the move. That's it. So all of those things happening all at the same time, the sanctions and all the rest of it, of course, there was going to be a moment where a change of ownership, it was going to impact the club. But there's no Chelsea fan that can honestly say to me, we were going to be this shit come the 3rd of May, 2023, when we spoke about it in October, because none of us could see this happening. None of us. So this is now not just a Lampard issue. I'm not even going to blame the owners because the owners have put in money, but the problem is they've gone about it all back to front. They've just got rid of everything and threw a load of money at something and it doesn't work. And what you should do is keep the Marina Granovskayas around. Keep Petr Cech around. Keep them there. And then bring your people in. When the transition's done, when it's done and you've got your transition done and you've phased out the players you want out, you've got the players in that you want in, then you get rid of them. Then you move them on. But you don't sack them all. I know Petr Cech left on his own accord, but the moment he left, he was the last saving grace for our season because he actually knew about the club. He knew what the identity of the club was. We don't even have an identity anymore. If someone said to me tomorrow, how do we play our football? I couldn't even tell you because, do you know what? I don't even know how we're going to line up against Bournemouth at the weekend. Or Forest, the game after. Or City, or United. I don't even know how we're going to line up. Because we've never had a steady lineup. And I've said this for near enough 2 seasons now. We have never had a steady lineup. You look at Liverpool. I know that Trent is potentially going to play. I know that Robertson's going to play. I know that maybe Gakpo's going to play. When I look at City, I know Haaland's playing. I know Akanji's playing. I know Ake's playing. I know Ederson's playing. I couldn't tell you that about us. We are a shambles of a club. We're a shambles. And it's not just the players. We can't blame just the players. Because I guarantee you, if you put Mudryk in the Arsenal team, he's starting, first of all, and he's actually playing 10 times better than he does in our system. If you sent Raheem Sterling back to Man City, he's probably on 15 goals this season with 5 assists. If you put Enzo in United's team, he's probably going to get 10 assists already and 5 goals. It's not just the fact that these players have come in and they haven't hit the ground running. They're actually quality players. And I said that yesterday in yesterday's video. We've got quality players in that team. No one can't tell me that we haven't got quality players because we have. We've got very good players. The problem we haven't got is a system, is structure, is a manager that knows when you're 1-0 down or knows how to adapt in a game. We haven't got that. We've not got someone who knows when you're up against it, you need to play 5 at the back. Last night, we didn't even press. Even when it was 1-0 to Arsenal, we never went to try and take the game to them. And look at their defence they had out last night. Just look at the defence. Look at their defence. I said it yesterday. That defence is, you can get to it. You can get to it. There was a couple of times, I think Noni tried it. I think Ben Chilwell got through it once and was unlucky with the Ramsdale save. That defence was so high, the line was so high as well. If we just ran in behind those spaces, if we had runners, if we had Mudryk in there. Like I said, Madueke was trying, but I tell you from now, this is a moment in our season when we seriously have to consider, does Pochettino even want the job? Does he even want the job? Because last weekend, the weekend before, owners were in LA and whatever else. And now all of a sudden, it's gone quiet. Pochettino's got his certain demands that he wants respectfully as well. I agree with him. He shouldn't have the owners in those dressing rooms at all. So I get Pochettino's hesitance into taking the job. He wants reassurances before he accepts it. He probably wants to make sure we don't go down in the championship as well. All jokes aside, but the Pochettino news has gone quiet. You know, does he actually want to come in and deal with this shit show of a club? The circus? Does he actually want to do that? Because I'm going to be honest, there's going to be jobs coming up left, right and centre over the next 2 years. And he could actually go and get another top job somewhere. He could go and get a top job. We got to see what happened with Nagelsmann. The whole stalling of Nagelsmann. Nagelsmann said, well, fuck this, I'm not going to come to the club. If you're going to take the piss, I'm not coming. So we've seen it with Nagelsmann. Enrique said, nah, I'm out. I don't want anything to do with it. Pochettino could do exactly the same thing. He could do exactly the same thing as the other two. Now, if he does that, what's the backup? Frank Lampard for another season? These owners have to be held accountable because they're the ones at the top making all these crazy decisions that are now affecting the club. And I said on one of the podcast episodes, this is affecting the youth team now. The players they're bringing in for the future, they're still signing. Andre Santos is another one. I forgot about him the other day as well. All these players we're bringing in, these lot see it as a business. Todd Bowley sees it as a business, not as a club, not as a way to try and get the Champions League or to go on a 3-year back-to-back, triple Premier League winning champions. He doesn't want that. He just wants to be someone when he leaves in 10 years, when he can sell the club, he's got all this amount of money, all these assets, he's built this club up, he's done the stadium, I can sell it for triple what I got for it. That's what he's thinking. He's not thinking about... That's why he wasn't bothered about Potter. It's only because the fans spoke up and the fans said, we're not putting up with this bullshit from Potter, why he got rid of Potter. Otherwise, Graham Potter would still be in the club now. That's why he's not bothered, because he wants the money. He's a money man. He's a businessman. He doesn't care about the club like Roman did. The things that Roman done around Stamford Bridge, not just at the ground, I'm talking surrounding, the village, everything he done, under the bridge, that venue. As soon as Bowley came in, under the bridge was shut. It was shut down. It was gone. These lot are about money, not about the team, not about us fans, the fans that go to the games as well, the fans that buy the merchandise, the fans that invest all their time into the club. They don't care about us. They care about money. So we need to differentiate between who's here for the money, who's here for the Twitter spaces and wants to gain a bit of attraction on Twitter, and who's actually here for the club. Because for me, bottom line is, even if we were to get relegated, I'd be still supporting, I'd still be doing these videos. My point is, we should not be anywhere near the part of the table that we are. We should not be anywhere near it. We have to be thankful for Thomas Tuchel. Something a lot of Chelsea fans aren't thankful for. Some of the Chelsea fans say, well, he was always going to do that. Thomas Tuchel deserved to get sacked. He did in the end. The results were poor. We know that. But you got to look what he was working against. Sanctions, COVID. If you remember back to the Wolves game, we had 3 outfield players that he could name on the bench. COVID. That COVID season was grueling. Off-field stuff with him. But we have to thank Thomas Tuchel because, believe it or not, we'd be sat with Everton and Southampton right now on 29 points. Thomas Tuchel is responsible for 10 of our points this season. We're on 39 points. If we had 29 and we didn't have Thomas Tuchel's points, we'd be sitting in the relegation drop zone looking at playing Cardiff City and Rotherham United next season. So I think we need to be more appreciative of what Thomas Tuchel done at the club. Some people don't like him, some wanted him sacked. That's fair enough. It is what it is. He's not coming back, so it doesn't even matter. But my point is, without those wins at the start of the season, the August part of that season, we wouldn't even be in this conversation about what's happening next season with Pochettino. We'd be talking about maybe a relegation battle with Everton and Southampton and Leeds and Nottingham Forest. So we have to be thankful for that as well. And some of these players have to seriously get up in the morning and look at themselves in the mirror. Because if they don't want to be at the club, then they need to go. They need to get out of the club. Because this is the club that's always going to be here for the fans that want to be here for the club. Players, managers, I can't be loyal to a player or a manager. I have no loyalty to any player or any manager. I've got no sentiment to any of them. I don't care about the managers. I don't care about the players. I don't. I care about the club. So if the club is always going to be here, which it will be, that's what I'm here for. I'm not here for the managers and the Lampards and the Joses and the Antonios and Tuchels. I don't give a shit about them. I don't give a shit about any of the players. They come and go. They come and go. I'm here for the club. The club. So we need to remember that when we're talking about all these, the bollocks I see on Twitter and everything else, we need to remember that the club is always going to be here. And if you support the club, you support them through thick and thin. If we got relegated, you still support them. But the problem is there's too many of these idiot fan base idiots now on Twitter and YouTube and wherever else arguing the toss with each other like this all day. We've turned into AFTV. And the players see that as well. And now the players are probably thinking, well, fuck it. If these are talking about me like that on the internet, I may as well just not bother playing. We need to weed out all these idiot fans and weed out the players at the meantime as well and get Chelsea back to where it was. Because this is going to be a long roller coaster. We're not going to just be going back. If we bring in Pochettino, we're not just going to come from 12th this season back into that top 4 next season, because Newcastle will strengthen. They're already talking about bringing in Rafinha for 80 million. Man City will strengthen. They're losing Gundogan. Man United are going to strengthen. Arsenal are going to strengthen their team. Tottenham, if they get Nagelsmann, who knows? So you're looking at 5 teams already. We're going to be the 6th one. You've got other teams in there, Villa, who are doing very well. There could be a Burnley in the mix as well. There's so many things to factor in. We're not just going to... We could fall off for a very long time if we're not careful. That's all I'm saying. Had to be a passionate one today, guys, unfortunately. But I have to get these things off my chest, because if I don't... And this is why I don't record straight after the game, because this would have been a totally different video. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. Let's hope for 3 points on Saturday. It ain't going to happen, but I'm going to say it anyway. Let's hope for 3 points on Saturday, 3 p.m. I think we've got Bournemouth at the weekend, so a couple of days off, a couple of stress-free days until we play again. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, stay safe. We'll be back soon.